Welcome to the 10th episode of Edgar Church's Basement, a collectible comics podcast from me, Rob Larson. I run a YouTube channel and a blog, both called It's All Just Comics. You can find them at youtube.com/itsallJustComics and itsallJustComics.com. There I share research, auction reviews, previews, historical deep dives, pedigree deep dives, etc. on a weekly basis. This podcast is a companion to that work where I can talk about comics in a more freeform manner without, having a project behind it. This episode is related to a project. So I just released EdgarChurchData.com. So it is the online home of all of the data that I have on the Edgar Church pedigree. So I've been working for 10 years, not steadily. So I stopped working on it for a couple of years here and there, and then would go back and fix things, and then would go back and stop working on it or whatever. But starting in 2014, which is a while ago, I started to collect all information I could about the Edgar Church pedigree. So what I did was I got the original master list, and then I took a spreadsheet that had been worked on the CGC forum. User Artie, or R2, ARTOO, shared it with me and said, you can use this. So I took that spreadsheet, and then I did years of work, and I paid people to do grunt work in terms of manipulating the data. Some of it would be much easier now with AI, as an aside. But some of it would not be. Some of it you need a paper book and the standard catalog of comic books and whatever to put that data together. But anyway, over a couple of years, I took that original master list, and then I took this census of all of the CGC graded books that we knew about up until 2014, and I put them together in a format that was readily available. Now, that format was a CSV file, usable in Excel, but I had always wanted to put it on the web. And since I've been doing, this podcast and then YouTube channel and really getting back into comics and having some fun doing research and talking to people and building a little community around this stuff, I decided, now is the time. So I went and I did the work over a couple of weeks and got EdgarChurchData.com up and running. So in this podcast episode, I'm going to just talk about the collection a little bit because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I have many thoughts and I have many questions, and I have a lot to discuss. So one of the first things that I want to think about is a question I have, and I may do a video on this. I keep saying that, and I keep doing videos, but I keep adding more. So I do 1 or 2 videos a week. And some of them are cool and, kind of offbeat. And others are just like, there's an auction. I'm going to cover that auction. And then I have just all these video ideas that require research and whatever. And I put them on a list. I have a list, an ongoing list. And one of the ones that I want to do is, and it will take some research, but I'm going to throw it out there for you to discuss if you want, which is currently, how many $1 million comic books are in the church pedigree, right? So, obviously the action comics, I guess none of it is obvious. I shouldn't say obviously, right? You could be coming from who knows where and listening to this podcast because you want to learn about collectible comic books, and you would just say, what? How is it obvious that there are $1 million comics? So, I'm not going to say obviously. I will actually explain my reasoning. The most valuable comic book in the world, the Edgar Church copy of Action Number 1 is, worth $25 million, I think. You can argue with me. That's fine. I'm happy to argue. It's actually fun. But, so that's, certainly worth more than $1 million. Potentially the Action Comics Number 7 second Superman cover, I've heard some speculation that would be $1 million book. It would be the first non-key $1 million book, although it's kind of a key because it's the second Superman cover. I think Sean Lincolnbach is the first person I heard say that, and I don't argue with him because he knows a lot and knows more than I do about certain topics for sure, and has been very helpful for over the years. So I know where my bread is buttered. Another one. All-American Comics number 16. So that was one of the original books that we heard talk of selling for $1 million. There was some discussion that John had an offer from someone for over $1 million, and he was thinking about selling it. The All-Star 3? I don't know. The Church All-Star 8. It's sold in 1995. for $70,000, but it sold in 1995. So who knows what that even looks like? I got to dig up where that is. Flash Comics #1, definitely not $1 million book, but maybe someday soon. Last time it sold, 2010, $450,000. So it might get there. Batman #1, I think it's supposed to be near mint. It sold in 1984 for $12,000. And we know where that is. So that's another $1 million book for sure. There have been other high grade Batman #1s, and those weren't purchased. So, and this hasn't shown up in the market. So, Church Detective 27 with CGC 8.5, definitely $1 million book. Marvel Comics #1 is definitely $1 million book. Pep 22 is an interesting one. It's clearly the best copy. Like, it's clearly just ridiculous. $47,000, by the way, in 1997. That is a great buy. And that was a huge amount of money for that book in 97. But, yeah, I mean, we had a 7.0 sell for $220,000 or something like that. And the church copy is going to be so much better than anything else out there. It's not even funny. It's like not even a conversation. Superman #1, obviously $1 million book, as it already sold for $5.3 million. Wiz #2, so supposed to be in the catalog. It was near mint plus in the catalog. And yeah, Overstreet 21 lists it as mint. It changed hands in a cash trade deal in 1990 for $74,000 and then sold in 1995 for $176,000. I believe that would be $1 million book because it's the best copy, right? I don't think there's anything else that they could compare. Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. So I don't know how many I just counted out, but those seem like the candidates. Is there anything I'm missing? Is there anything like that you can think of that would be $1 million book in the church collection? But I do want to know what you think, so drop a comment if you're on YouTube, or send me a message on the CGC forum, or email, or whatever. I'm readily available to contact and talk about this stuff, so it's always fun. Another thing I find fascinating, and this is one of the things that I need to work on from a data perspective, is that as of right now, with over 2,000 books graded in the collection, in my data set, the average grade is 8.9. And I just wonder if I can get it over 9 if I just add the recent data from 2016 on. Because I know like John Burke had a bunch of books that weren't graded previously and were graded when he sold his collection. And some of those are, there's a lot of 9.8s. There's a lot of crazy stuff in there. So it's really interesting. But the overall quality of the collection is just remarkable. So there's 15,000 books that I have listed. And there's probably another kind of 200 or 300 that I know about that I haven't listed. So, for example, the Action Comics that are in Dave's collection, the Batmans that are in Dave's collection, all the stuff that's in Dave's collection, all the really good stuff that's out of the market and hasn't been CGC graded, I know exists. So there's a few hundred books there. But, it's 15,000 right now. Out of those 15,000, 2,000 have been graded, and the average grade is 8.9. So, yeah, it'd be interesting, and we'll find out because I'm going to continue to add data to the set, and, that average grade will update as we go. But it just goes to show you, like, what the overall quality of the collection is. It's absolutely remarkable that a collection from the Golden Age could average 8.9 CGC grade across, 2,000 books. It's crazy. So just looking at the data from another perspective, of the 15,000 plus books I have, there are prices, which means they were listed in the catalog. There are prices for 14,397 of them, which means there were 14,397 books in the catalog. The sum of those, so you could have bought everything in the church collection that hadn't been sold already or was being held back by Chuck for $422,906. We just talked about how many $1 million books there are. How many $500,000 books there are? There's a lot. I actually think you couldn't get through the top 20 actions without them being $500,000 books. That might be an exaggeration. But this is what happens in the podcast. I speak extemporaneously and I say things. But that's actually an interesting exercise to go through. Like, what is the average price of the highest graded, because we're going to assume they're the highest graded, actions from 1 to 20, for example. I don't know. It's a lot of money. And there'd be a lot of $500,000 books in there. So there are definitely books listed in the catalog that would sell for by themselves for over $500,000. For example, Superman #1 is listed in the catalog. So that would definitely sell for more than $500,000. There are plenty of others. And yeah, so it is interesting that you could buy the entire collection at that time. Wiz Comics #2. Let's look. Wiz Comics #2, Captain America Comics #1, which is restored but still might be $500,000. Batman #1, definitely. Oh my goodness. Superman #1, Captain Marvel #1, probably, maybe. Daring Comics #1. All American 16 for sure. Silver Streak just sold for like $250 or something like that. Detective 38, which is funny. One of my books I cover. Yeah, I mean, so there's a few that were listed in the catalog that would be, well, More Fun Comics #52. That was listed in the catalog for $1,000. Yeah, so I mean, there's a bunch of books that you could have bought and held on to, and sold for more than the price of the entire original catalog, which is fascinating to me. So yeah, it's just nutty, right? Like, this collection is just absolutely insane. And the more I look at it, the more impressed I am. And, it's one of these things. Like, I was talking about the Proms collection recently and how some of those results were just bonkers, and it sold into the COVID bubble and whatever. But the Proms collection, the hobby could handle. If we found the Edgar Church collection now, it would almost be impossible to sell. Like, it would be so heavy. There would be so many books. It would be so many, like, what's a great heritage signature auction right now? 25 million, 30 million. You could do 25 million, well, with one book. But you could do, if you just did Action 1 to 24 with Church collection, that would be like $60 million. That's just 24 books. The Batman run, the Detective run, like, it's just insane. It's just crazy. And you could pick any one of these things. I mean, lesser runs sell for $1 million. And it's nuts. And we just have no concept of it now, right? Like, it's been dispersed in the hobby for so long that it's difficult for us to even wrap our heads around. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so fascinated by it. And that's one of the reasons that I spend so much time, like, working on the data, is because it brings it to life in a way, which is funny because it's like, oh, data, like, you're an egghead. But it does, right? Like, I can put numbers to this. Like, eventually, like, what I'd like to do is, and this will take a while or whatever, maybe never do it, but you could evaluate what it would be like to bring the Church collection to market now, the entire thing, right? I could, in fact, do it. I could go through all 15,000 books and put a price to them. I did it with Allentown, and it took a while. This would take ages. I'd need staff. But, I mean, that would be fascinating. It would be fascinating. It would be so much money. It'd be so much money. It would, like, make Halperin cry. Not that I want to make Halperin cry. I think he's been good for the hobby, but comment on that below. But, I mean, generally, I think that Heritage has been good for the hobby. So I know that, CGC, I know not everyone's a fan of CGC. Heritage, I know not everyone's a fan of Heritage. Comic Connect, I know not everyone's a fan of Comic Connect. Fischler, I've heard all this stuff about everyone, right? But generally, I think, and I call out the people that I think are bad actors, but I generally think that these people are good actors. So, but if you have a differing opinion, please share it, because it is fascinating to me. Sometimes I don't comment, but sometimes I do, and it's fun. And, differing opinions make the world go round. It's good. But anyway, that number would be so large right now. It would take, they're trying to, Heritage gets a big collection. They have to spread it out over a year. What would you have to do with the Church collection? You have to spread it out over 10 years. You couldn't even sell it. It would be ridiculous. It would kill the hobby, which is funny because it made the hobby. So if another collection of that scale and magnitude came out, it would kill the hobby. It wouldn't really, but it would make things really, really weird. It would make things really weird. It'd be fascinating for me, but it would be very strange. Is that enough thoughts on the church collection? I think there's a lot there. I mean, I want to hear some comments from you guys. If you drop some comments, it'd be great. A little bit of discussion about this stuff. It's so fascinating. And there's so much more that I'm going to do with the data and share with you all. I just wanted to do a brain dump of like what I've been looking at with the church collection after having done this thing. And I'm going to continue to work with the data, so it'll be good. I might do a visualization here or there. But I'm going to continue to talk about this stuff because I think it's fascinating, and I definitely want some input where applicable. So thank you once again. I really appreciate you guys. This is fun to do. It's really fun to talk about the church pedigree. That's why the podcast is named that way. So yeah, if you are on YouTube, please drop some comments. Otherwise, reach out on any channel you know how to find me, which I'm pretty available, and let me know what you think. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.